Now I just want to take a few minutes to talk about some foam roller work, because a lot of people ask me if I do it, why I don't do it, and a few interesting questions. So I want to explain why my thoughts on using foam roller has changed over the years. I used to, like everybody else, think of foam rolling the ITB down the outside, always found it excruciatingly painful and struggled with it a little because I didn't see much improvement over time. Then as I learned more about fascia, I've understood why this is the case. So if you think about the hydration of fascia that we've been talking about, if you compress it on your foam roller, you're actually driving the fluid out. So it's really not until you move past that you're actually getting some flushing of fluid into those systems. Also, unfortunately, the ITB doesn't actually exist as we have been shown it in anatomy books and pictures. If you think about it, every picture you have seen of an ITB will usually be a hand-drawn illustration or a photo of a dissection. I know that when I was at university in wet labs, every dissection we had been trimmed and cleaned to show the ITB down the outside. Now, a couple of years ago, I was really lucky and had the opportunity to do a wet lab dissection whilst I was in Colorado Springs. There's an amazing research lab there. And when I was talking to the demonstrator before and she asked what I wanted to see, I said, well, actually, I want to see the fascia intact because every dissection I've seen has been cleaned up to show certain things. She said, oh, I like you already. So I went in, and one of the things that was astounding to me was that the ITB just does not exist as I'd been shown. It is continuous, wrapping around into the front of the thigh, wrapping all the way around into the back onto the outer hamstrings, wrapping in, smearing into the knee, down into the fascia of the outer lower leg, up into the hip, continuous with all the fascia up into the rib cage. So it really is this whole lateral line that we're going to talk about a lot in this section. And for me, this is really interesting when we look at how most people work on their ITB. They work on one segment, which is where they feel the most pain. And they tend to dive into it and grind in. And they often do it for 10 years straight with no actual improvement. If you are tight in this area, I would rather look at the whole fascial line. I also want to look at the muscles that feed into that area. If you've been gripping with your glutes to try and hold turnout, or your pelvic stability is not very good, then this will lay down more fascial tissue on the outside. So I'd rather deal with the things that are causing this tension rather than just repeatedly hammer it. So going to look at a couple of techniques. Personally, I never use a foam roller to work on my mobility. Some people are a little addicted to their foam rollers, so I'm going to show you a more effective way of using it if you love foam rolling your ITB that can create more space in the fascia rather than just compressing it. So instead of thinking of rolling through your ITB this way, we're actually going to do that gently to find one point that's a little bit tighter than the others. And imagine this is one of those fuzz points. It's just a bit stuck together. Instead of compressing it, we actually want to create shearing between the layers. So we're going to move across, down, back and up, cross, down, back and up. So we're actually shearing the top layers against the lower layers. You want to make sure your foam roller has a little bit of give. You can place it underneath your yoga mat as well. If you've got a very hard foam roller, even a doubled up yoga mat over the top will give you a little bit of cushioning to make it more comfortable. So Jay's just going to do it on one side, and then we'll actually reassess her whole lateral line. So you want to make sure you're nice and supported on this shoulder. This foot is also supported to help lift you up away from it. So just gently glide through and find any particular point where it's a little bit stuck. Yeah. And then try drawing that little square forward, up, beautiful, down and back, good, and up, forward, down and back. Good, just do that about 5 times. And I find this is a much nicer way of thinking of resolving any kind of points that have become a little bit of stuck, a little bit fuzzed over, but it's definitely only one part of the program that we'll use to create space in this whole lateral line. Now try going reverse. And you don't need to spend long here, it's just enough to get some shearing through those layers. Good. Take it down a little bit further, see if you can find one more spot there. And you can also try going forward, yeah, or coming around to the back. So think of actually including your lateral quad and your lateral hamstring. So seeing if there's any areas through there you may have more effect on. Yep, and then drawing the square once you've found a little stuck point. Beautiful. And then we're going to jump up and try our lateral line mobilizer to compare the side that hasn't been worked on with the side that has. So to assess the effectiveness, we're actually going to skip forward and try our lateral line mobilizer. So Jade's going to take her right foot forward, left foot, the big toe is in line with your opposite heel. Scooch it around under the back. Yeah, beautiful. Stay up on the edge of the foot unless you've had any recent ankle injuries. Yeah, just relax those toes. Hips nice and square, and then sweep the left arm up and over, lengthen out. Want to get a really nice long feeling, keeping lifted through the front of the pelvis, and then come back up. Just do that a couple of times and feeling this nice opening, the longest line from your middle finger to the outside of your foot. Good. And again. Beautiful. Yep. Come back up and now try the other side that hasn't had any work on the foam roller. And up and over. Now how does that feel? Not as nice, yeah. So you'll just often feel it just a little bit tighter. So whilst foam roller work is not my favourite thing in the world, I think there are more effective ways of dealing with the fascia. If you do it nicely, aiming to create more sliding between those layers, it can be pretty effective at opening up your entire lateral line.